Brands for Good is a celebration of positive impact businesses. It's an award that we've been managing for 2 years together with IPOS Society and the IIPCC Singapore. Both Alan is the president for IPOS Society, and he will be speaking later, and as well as Esther, which is the IIPCC Intellectual IP Commercialization Council Singapore, which is run, the president is actually Esther Wee. Esther is also here today. Esther, you want to say hi?
Hi everybody. Good to
Okay.
be around. Good to be
Can't
here.
see you though. You only see a little Esther Wee. Show,
Yeah.
yeah, be visible. It's very important. Right. Okay. That's Brands for Good, and during this COVID crisis, what is happening is we're beginning to realize that there are many businesses that are struggling to manage the situation, and we ourselves are also feeling the impact because we are unable to run a lot of our events and a lot of our activities, our info sessions around it. But given the fact that we are also all businessmen in the sense and all entrepreneurs, right? We also start recognizing we need to start pivoting, and we ourselves are beginning to pivot as well as to try and make sure that we do more online events and activities. And this is sort of Emerge Stronger. Our team for this series is born out of that. It is born out of necessity to try and bring businesses together to create a space where we can all not only just simply write this COVID challenges that's coming up, but also to emerge stronger. And that's actually more important for us. It's not simply to just try to be resilient or to ride out the storm. It's not going to be there. And I think Charlie will probably share more about it later, right? As I mentioned earlier on, we have a WhatsApp chat group that we set up specifically for the Emerge Stronger series. We will be sharing the slides and we'll be sharing the information through the WhatsApp channel because it's easier post-event, because after the Zoom, we sort of lose touch, right? And we also want to help to stay in touch and stay in communication. So the WhatsApp chat is going to be there. All of us are on it. Ellen from IPOS Society, Esther from IPCC, Charlie as well, and previous week speaker Jackie Tai is there as well, so that you can actually ask questions or post anything that you may be interested in finding out a little bit more there, right? Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to try and spend a little time to sort of introduce the people that are speaking today. Charlie Ang is actually a good friend, someone that we've been working with for over 2 years. I attended Charlie's program 2 years back. I mean, honestly, it was a sort of an eye-opener for us, and without which, if we did not attend it 2 years back, I think many of the things that we were doing today would not have happened. I mean, we were very, very early on adopting online cloud systems and services, and very quickly make sure that our database were intact. We were thinking about things that were in the long term and planning out. And we hope that today's session that Charlie shares with you a little bit will also give you some of the insights. Charlie is a transformation coach, right? He's an innovation strategist. He's also a keynote speaker in many conferences, and he's been spending time to curate information and about how businesses can navigate through Black Swans events, and this COVID-19 is one of those Black Swan events that's really changing the way we all work. The next person that will be speaking is Alan. Alan, of course, is chair for Brands for Good, and that's hence he's also will be sharing a little bit about Brands for Good, as well as about funding and grants, because that's actually his background. Alan runs EBA Consulting, and he also gets a paycheck from the ASEAN Development Bank. So both of these are his pays the bills. His other volunteer works, of course, is IPOS Society and Enterprise Singapore Society, where he is both an ex-staff with both these agencies and these stat boards. He's been instrumental in a lot of the funding programs in the early days, and he was actually the grant officer behind Bread Talk and Charles and Keith and Sake Sushi in the early days. And so he knew some of the policy, and he understands the policies in place of why the government does a lot of the things. And I think he will share that, and he will actually give you a little bit more insights into, hopefully, into what's happening now within that sector itself. Last but not least, our next Emerge Stronger series is going to be with Maybank. Today, we've sort of been working with Maybank as a sponsor for Brands for Good for very long, but given the current pandemic and there's so many challenges and especially with financing, Maybank has sort of come together and instead of actually just having one person sharing, Maybank has fielded the entire team. So for all the way from Mark to Elena and Alan, a three-person sharing sessions to cover 3 different areas of support, not only just from the banking sector, but as well as some of the earlier grants and some of the earlier digitization grants that's available through the banks that they can help and support. So again, we will post more information on the RSVPs for the next session, which is next week. Now, so as you can see, this is our second Emerge Stronger series session. Next week will be the third one. We plan to do this every week, right? So our intention now is to make sure that our businesses don't collapse during this period and even for the longer term, but also to make sure that all of us can continue to strengthen each other. So week on week, we're working with thought leaders. We're also trying to reach out to content leaders in terms of helping to share and navigate some of the challenges that are going on over the next few weeks, right? Or even years or months, right? So let's so without further ado, I'm going to end my screen share. Okay, so that we can sort of pass this on back to Charlie so that we can start on time. Oh, sorry, not Charlie, sorry, to Elena, so that she can share a little bit more, sort of a teaser of what's going to happen next week, so that we can get out. So Elena is actually with Maybank, and she's the team head for SME banking. Is it team head? Elena, are you there?
Head of Business Development.
Head of Business Development. Thank you. Sorry. So okay. So Elena is Head of Business Development with Maybank, and then she's been someone that I've been working very closely with for the last 2 years with Brands for Good, and very happy to have her. So Elena, over to you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Elena, as what mentioned by Alan. So basically today, right, it's not my session. So I'm just stealing Charles' sessions for 5 minutes to briefly just go through what will we be covering on May the 5th. Okay, that is a sessions whereby we wanted to discuss on measures during this disruptive times, the financing measures that you can have during this disruptive time. So on that day itself, 5th of May, 2 to 3:30, in this 1.5 hour, we will have 3 speakers. Myself, basically, I'm doing business development in terms of the working capital loans and the bridging loans. And then I have my fellow colleagues, Alan Tong, which will be covering the portions on trade. He's a trade expert. So the portions that every time I do info session, right, but Alan will be the one that y'all can find out more pertaining to trade. As for my boss, Mark, the pictures that you saw just now, Mark is the head of SME banking. So Mark will also be sharing on how digitalizations during this period and going forward will help you in your future businesses. So mark down the date, 5th of May, 2 to 3:30. Join us. I think the link that just now Glenn showed. Glenn, you want to show back the screen? There's a QR code. I think they can register via the QR code also. Yeah, Glenn, you have that screen. So the participants can actually start registering it. And yeah, till then, we see you on 5th of May. Keep safe. And with that, I pass it back to Glenn. Thank you.
Okay, oops, sorry, I was trying to find the slides again. You caught me off guard a little bit.
I'm sorry, I thought you were screened.
Well, this kind of thing must pass very fast. We all got 200,
Okay.
150 people here.
All right, it's okay.
Okay, so Paise. Okay, thanks, Elena. Okay, so back to Charlie, and without further ado, I'll pass it on to Charlie. As I mentioned earlier on, I was privileged to be part of Charlie's program 2 years ago. Actually, I attended it again last week, and to be honest, when I attended it with Charlie last week, I had a sort of a minor epitome, right? So sort of a breakthrough. One of the few things that we've discovered and we learned, and I sort of want to share this with with everyone as well, because this is how we feel we can make a difference as well. We started recognizing that conferences are not going to be easy to organize in the next 1 year, right? And because of that, we decided that we could step in quickly, and because of our wide outreach of partners and our contacts and our networks, we could create conference-like activities and programs that would be effective to help the SME businesses. And hence why this Emerge Stronger series started appeared. We already had a talk that was planning with Jackie, our previous branding partner, and all that. But we on ourselves decided to pivot and create a conference-like series like this, and hence our team for Emerge Stronger. So as we build up, we hope that you continue to support us, and in terms of the ideals of what we're trying to do. We want to not only strengthen ourselves, but also strengthen everyone through this process, and across ASEAN as well. And so our sites are bigger. We are not only just now simply looking at Singapore, we're also looking at ASEAN, and that and technology allows us for that, right? And that's also one of the advantages of having now this chance and this opportunity to work with everybody online, and then having a space that now I do not have to worry about having a room to fit 200 people. I can expand quite quickly beyond just 200 people as well. So that's it. I will now pass it on to Charlie. But before I pass it on to Charlie, I forgot to mention, we are actually also started recognizing that because there's a lack of events going on now, there's very little chance for people to interact and meet new people and meet new friends. We've decided to try and take that a little bit further by having networking and open networking sessions at the end of this session. So if for those of you who have a little bit more time, we'll be organizing today's setup into breakout rooms so that we are smaller, bite-sized, 20, 25 people per room, hopefully. And within that small breakout rooms, there will be sort of a moderator to help you co-host the event, and so that everybody can sort of meet each other and then get to know a few more friends, and make a few more contacts in this a new world that we are in, right? Okay, so Charlie, are you ready? Great. Okay, so Charlie has two screens. One is his video and the other one is his voice. So it's a very interesting process that he runs. Okay, so over to Charlie.
Hello, everyone. Hi. This is a very unusual time. So I'm here to share with you, I hope, new information and new insights for you to manage these very, very unusual times. And not only for today, but I want to emphasize that that the whole decade will be really very unusual. So I want to give you some kind of a background about what's happening in the next 10 years beyond this whole pandemic. The pandemic is the start, but not the end of all this chaos and these disruptions. So first of all, thanks to the Brands for Good and the team there. And then I would say that a lot of what I'm doing, what I am sharing with companies and business leaders actually ties in very well with Brands for Good, as well as in terms of just now Glenn talked about this being resilient, right? So actually we need to be more than resilient. So I'll be sharing with you what I mean by that. Okay, before I start, can I ask you all to key into the chat box? I've only one question for you guys today. In fact, it's the $1 trillion question. And the question is, how long do you think this, in Singapore's case, since we're in Singapore, right? How long do you think this DORSCON Orange will last? Okay, DORSCON Orange, there are different levels of DORSCON Orange, right? There is like work, there is like this circuit breaker, and then there's different level of restrictions of work, and I want you to key in whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, or even whatever number you want to key in, just to get a sense. So I'm talking about DORSCON Orange, this whole state of different level of restriction in terms of movement, and this social distancing. All right, okay, 18 months, 4 months, 1 year, okay, all right, okay. Okay,
6 months.
very good. 6 months, who said that? Okay, we'll see. Let me now share my screen. Okay, so this is actually my favorite topic, thriving in the age of chaos, complexity, and disruption. And now it's actually getting this updated with this COVID special, okay? I'm just going to play a short video of myself.
My name is Charlie Ang, and I'm a business futurist, innovation strategist, and future of work expert. I help organizations and executives to preview, preempt, and prepare for the future economy. In other words, I guide them to become future ready or even future leading in this fourth industrial revolution. Work with me to make hyperspeed change your best friend instead of your worst enemy.
So actually, what do I mean by that? Where we're entering a era of hyperspeed change. And we shouldn't fear that, because if you can reorganize your business so that you turn it around in terms of, if there are more disruptions, things are moving faster, how can I be a winner in this case instead of being the loser? So obviously this COVID crisis, you can say everything about this as unprecedented, whatever large words you want to use. But I've been looking at this and talking about this for the whole of last year, about the perfect storm in 2020s, and why very few organizations today are really ready for this. So as you know, this just 4 months only, there's so many things happening. The Iran, almost a flashpoint between Iran and US, Australian wildfire, and all these crazy things all happening. So I want to kind of reset your thinking and cast away, the last 30, 40 years and start afresh. Okay, today I was attending this SID, Singapore Institute of Director webinar as well, and the participants said that whatever plans that you have before this, you can all throw away, because the whole world is so different, totally different animal already. So whatever you have to start from a clean sheet of paper. So in fact, the person who invited me to speak at this conference last year, Steve Tunstall, he's actually in the audience today. So actually, I've been speaking about this disruption for this whole decade, this perfect storm. And I summarized in this slide. You can see the lower right-hand corner, the summary. And I said 3 things. First is that technological disruption risk. Okay, actually, this conference is all for risk managers of multinationals and conglomerates, right? So I was saying that for risk managers, look out for technological disruption risk. Technology and companies using technology to disrupt your business model. Okay, I'll come back to that, because that's exactly what's accelerated right now. Number 2 is that I said never in our lifetime risk. And why did I say that? Because unless you live through the 2 world wars, those are my reference point in terms of what's going to happen in this decade. Okay, in fact, I have a piece in Straits Times. I have a piece submitted to Straits Times. I hope they publish it soon. And I use the World War II as a reference point. All right. And I'll share with you later on why I think so. But basically, this is risk that is never imagined in our lifetime, because we have not seen something so big ever. So I'm kind of anticipating this will happen. And if it's not this COVID, it will be something else. And I emphasize on the frequency and severity, okay, of black swans. Black swans are high impact and low probability event, okay? This decade, they'll all start to appear out of the blue, and you'll all catch us by surprise, okay? And this COVID itself is like a mother black swan. You'll give birth to many black swans, okay? So we must be able to look out for it. Just like Donald Trump, right? When he became president, he actually gave birth to a lot of black swans. So just look at the oil crisis. Wow, oil being negative, you have to pay people $40 to dispose of your oil. Right? or it's amazing. It's simply beyond imagination. And that is the kind of complexity and chaos we have to learn how to manage. Otherwise, if we survive COVID, we may not survive what comes next. So I have two parts of my presentation. The first part is to give you an update in terms of COVID impact on business. Okay. Then the second part is to give you a longer visibility in terms of how the landscape has changed and how, as a business, everything starts with the mindset first, right? Because with the mindset, then you can apply the right strategies. If your mindset is obsolete, you want to install new apps, it cannot work. So I want to give you a new approach, a new mindset, and two new strategies so that you actually make use of this crisis. Most companies, very few actually benefited from this, but make as much use as possible so that after the crisis, you actually emerge, just like the tagline, emerge stronger, right? And compared to your competitors. Okay, so I want to first answer this trillion dollar question. In fact, now I think it's worth $9 trillion because $9 trillion is the amount of GDP that's lost globally. Of this 9 trillion, I think about 3-point-something trillion belongs to the workers. So their wages are all lost. So if you're in a consumer business, that will affect you as well. Okay, so just to give you some basic background, by now you all actually should be quite familiar with this, so I'll go quite quickly. And I want to show you the difference between a coronavirus and the flu virus, because that will help us answer in terms of when this whole fiasco will be over, right? So to date, actually there are three well-known coronavirus on the left-hand side. So you have SARS, MERS. SARS was actually big here, right? Now it's kind of the second version of SARS, okay? And that will be useful in terms of helping us understand how the other two end, and will it be the same as SARS or not? This latest version of SARS or not, COVID-19, okay? And then there is the flu on the right-hand side. And the flu is different. Later on, I'll show you why they are different in terms of fatality, in terms of the so-called reproduction rate. Again, we want to contrast the difference between coronavirus and flu, because that will also determine how this thing will end. Okay, so just look at this chart. Some of you may have seen something like that before. Okay, you can see that actually on the vertical axis is how many people who got it eventually died, and then on the horizontal basis, left to right, is the so-called reproduction number. Okay, the famous R0. So why is this? Okay, so this R0 means that if there's no government intervention, how infectious is this, right? So SARS will infect about 2 to 4 people without any government intervention, okay? And COVID will, in this case, usually the number is 2 to 2.5, okay? But again, depends on the country. A dense country obviously will have higher infection rate, right? Especially like place like confined areas like dormitories, or on cruise ships, in military warships and so on, right? Submarines, right? But what I want to contrast in this case is this, okay? Is that because SARS, the main difference between SARS and COVID-19 is this incubation period. The SARS incubate about 1 to 4 days, and COVID-19 about 5 to 6 days. So a bit longer, okay? A bit longer means that this person can walk around and infect more people, right? That's number one. Number two is that there's also this concept of pre-symptomatic. Okay, pre-symptomatic means that before you fall ill and you need to seek, before you get any symptoms, you already start to spread. You already become infectious. Normally, that is 50% of the full infection effect. Okay, and then there's something called asymptomatic. It means that there are people who actually gone through the whole illness without getting sick, or even not showing the symptom at all. So they are the kind of super spreader because they are healthy, they are young, they are around now, they mix a lot. Okay, so this actually creates this difference in terms of how intervention can make a difference. Because in the case of SARS, with government intervention, you can easily bring it down to zero. Because the people are visibly sick, you can contain them and isolate them. Then very easily, the R0 can be brought down almost to zero. That's how when it spiked, eventually it got down to 8,000, and then it kind of died there. But there are also kind of studies to show that the weather plays a difference when the summer comes. Okay. But from COVID-19, because of the characteristic I just mentioned to you, it's very, very hard to bring it down because asymptomatic and this incubation period is longer. So that is why you have this huge surge in numbers compared to SARS. Okay, so how do countries control this? And it's important because our business relies on the countries managing and what kind of approach they take. And I'll say that it's not just what we have to watch. It's not just in Singapore, because if you look at all the global GDP statistics, it is not based on what's happening just in Singapore, right? It's actually how America manage this, Europe manages this, and if it's not well contained, the whole GDP could -3 to 6%. Okay, depending on how well they manage. I'll show you some numbers later. So you might have seen something like that, and the thing about managing this some big pandemic like that is that you have actually two ways to go. Okay, one is that you just let it quickly get everyone infected. 2 months later, the whole thing is over. Okay, that is actually good from an economic perspective. Okay, but a lot of people will die, as you know, because they exceed the healthcare capacity. Okay, so no humane and intelligent country will kind of implement this, although there are a few countries that tried this. So what we try to do is to smooth out the curve, but the challenge with that is it becomes very protracted. There's almost no end point. So running a business goal, obviously that's no good lah. So let me show the next slide and I come back to this. So every country, as you know, this thing, because it's about 2 to 2.5, so the growth rate is very infectious, it's very exponential. So what every country is trying to do is to bring the R0, basically to flatten the curve and then to kind of exterminate it all together. So this R0 becomes very important because if it's in the mean, if it's more than 1, then your curve keeps going up. And if it's 1, then basically you kind of flatten it, straighten, it's straight, horizontal. But only when it goes below 1, then it starts to go down. Okay, you can see the Singapore case, the local case is a bit fluctuating, sometimes lower, sometimes higher, right? So we are not there yet, but just like what PM say, right, trying to move it down to single digit so we can contain it, if not 0 if possible. Okay, so countries have 3 kinds of, generally a 3-stage strategy. Okay, you may not find this is my own slide, and the reason is that this medical information is all, they don't have the standard terms, and then it's very inconsistent, this public health kind of content. So I put it under these 3 categories. And the first category is anyone who got it or at risk, high risk, you kind of isolate them. So you have all these overseas travelers, all these are high risk. So you make sure that they fully be on their own for the whole of the incubation period. And then the second one is that if and there's this leakage to the mass population, then you cannot just do that anymore. You still have to do that as much as you can, although some country has given up. So for example, UK has given up a big part of this strategy. So when people fly in, actually they are not being tested because they think that enough people are kind of infected already, so there's no need to actually check individual high risk cases. So what you have to do now is to suppress it, and then you have this mandated social distancing that we are all experiencing now. So this is what's happening in the classic lockdown case. And the third strategy is in the process, you don't want to stress out your healthcare system, right? So what government has to do is reprioritize these infectious or infected patients, so that you no longer put them to hospital. The first generation of people who got it, I think more or less they are kind of in the hospital, but you kind of have to take people out, right? Because the capacity is fixed. So you actually compromise a lot of non-essential procedures. But what happened is that then you expect big numbers, so you start to use the exhibition hall, start to build out the kind of in China 10 days, 2 hospital, that kind of thing. So this is quite spread, like going around the world. So Singapore is kind of in stage 3, and at a certain stage we may just, when this thing is contained, we gradually kind of contain this. Okay. But some of the things that we implement, for example, compulsory masks, then when we are going containment mode, I think we will still be using it for a long time. So this is the general approach that is being used. So at least this gives you some framework of trying to understand what the government and governments are trying to do. So when will it end? So this is the key question. How will it end? Okay, there are 3 scenarios this can end. Okay, the first way is like SARS, and every country work together, and you largely still use the containment, because in this case, thankfully, SARS it's very visible when someone gets it, when they become infectious. So this strategy works for SARS. Okay, unfortunately, if you want to do it for COVID, this is almost impossible, because this requires everyone in the world to kind of control this and to bring it down to 0. Okay, in this modern world, it's very hard. So even when China is opening up, this second wave will come back in, right? So everyone is kind of afraid of second wave. In fact, there will be second wave, third wave, fourth wave. It's just endless wave if we don't manage it well. Okay, so this option is out. The second option is organic herd immunity, means that humans actually develop the immunity after enough of us get it. And when that happens, the R0 would naturally go down, because it's not so infectious anymore, because someone who got it may not get it again. So I said may not get it because any country that try to do it and then realize that the herd immunity is just short-term, it's not permanent, then basically people can get infected more than once. So now what we do not know is whether this herd immunity, this individual immunization after you've gotten your dose, right? Whether this is how long will this last? SARS lasts for 3 years, but nobody knows how long this will last yet, because obviously this whole pandemic just started, right? We don't have the track record. So that leaves us, okay, so the herd immunity, as you can imagine, is the breaking through the roof, and many people will die, especially the elderly. Okay, so that is almost impossible to do, is inhumane to do. And the first and the third one is vaccination. So that is almost the only practical possibility available to us. Okay, because the first one is highly unlikely, the second one is dangerous, and for lack of better choice, is a process of elimination, is vaccination. Okay, so as you know, the world is racing to develop a vaccine, but the problem is that it's so damn difficult, and we have not developed any vaccine for coronavirus before. When they're trying to do it for SARS, trying to do it for MERS, before the development gone on to advanced stage, is already being controlled and exterminated. So there's no need to go on further, right? So that is, as you know, you have heard of this, 12 to 18 months. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, eventually, is that this is a slide by Oliver Wyman, and they are large insurer and HR consultancy firm. Okay, and this is what you can expect. Okay, you can look at this from a local level, global level. It still applies, right? So the first 2 months, the initial heavy in terms of all these restrictions, the 2 months initial outbreak, trying to stem it out. Okay, and then some countries are still on the way up, but turning down. Then we'll go into the second phase 2. That is, hopefully, is kept low, and very easily it can spiral out of control if you remove, obviously, too much of that social distancing. I mean, now we are social distancing at home, and when this thing is, the circuit breaker is removed, then it becomes social distancing at the workplace, right? and that is the chance whereby risk will kind of go up again. Okay, so this is the kind of oscillation, right? When the number is too high, then government will have a circuit breaker again, and it's basically a yo-yo. So until we enter phase 3, you know, this is what we should expect. And generally, we're talking about end of 2021. Okay, not even end of 2020. Yeah. So I'll say that is a good estimate, maybe the best estimate. No one has the exact estimate, obviously, right? And then we enter phase 3. That's where the vaccination comes out, or a workable therapeutic treatment. And either one will, when this discovery is tested, now is several of them are in human clinical trials. But then the whole, because only, as you know, this thing only kills about generally 2% of the population. So if you give a dangerous or unsafe vaccination, it may negatively impact the other 8% of the people who will not be have a fatal result from the illness as well, right? In the first place. So you don't want to. So that's why they said the cure cannot be worse than the disease. So we want to make sure that, you know, that 98% of people who take it, they will not be negative side effects. So in terms of timeline, I would say expect up to end 2021 as a reasonable period for you to be mentally prepared. So what is the business impact? So this is by IMF. So you can see the light blue part is 3 months ago, and the dark blue part is as of just a couple of weeks ago, the new projection. And you can see a drop of 6.3%. And then they expect a fast rebound next year, okay? But that is with a caveat. And the caveat is that it depends on whether this is contained and whether there's still heavy suppression measures necessary to be in place after summer, okay? So if by summer, the whole world, this thing has more or less subsided down and more or less half business as usual, then you will see the numbers here, right? But if it is still on you know, it may go away actually in the summer and then, you know, spike again nearer to the winter, right? Autumn, fall period. So we never know. But the point is that this is, I'll say, generally I'll say it's quite positive because looking at the way it is, I don't see that it can be easily controlled by end of June around the world, because this haven't even hit the developing countries, right? So that could be the third round of this pandemic spread. Okay, so the thing is, we all know this is now a mother black swan, and the longer this thing lasts, okay, that's why the timing is very important, right? Because the longer this thing lasts, the more contagion effect there is. If you didn't realize before this, the world is actually at a very shaky stage because of different things, right? Especially at record debt levels. So oil crisis is already here, and you can't shy away from country default. Right now, there's about 130 countries that applied for IMF assistance because of COVID-19. You know, the big countries, they committed 8 trillion fiscal, the first round, more to come. But the poorer countries has nowhere to go to, right? And then they also have to service their debt. So that is quite a dangerous situation, especially if you serve the developing markets. And then corporate consumer default, this is taken as true, it's just to what extent. And the longer it is, then the more there will be. And then the contagion effect to become a financial crisis, a debt crisis, and you know, the finance is always quite tight with real estate. So that could also, in the first place, cause people to default subprime, and then that create again related to that, a financial crisis. And potentially, you know, in this very uncertain time, you know, countries may kind of, I won't say which country, but they may try to find a reason to create conflict and divert the attention elsewhere. And then some countries could literally fail. Okay, so be ready for such eventualities. Okay, so what does it mean for your business? Okay, first is that you need to identify whether this is a sprint or this is a marathon, because the way you run it is going to be so different. Okay, if you use a marathon sprint strategy to run a marathon, you run out of steam, right? So that's why this session is so important for you to be mentally prepared for the worst case, or 18 months maybe is the average case. I don't know. But you need to make sure you can last the whole marathon distance. Second is that this. That's not me. That's not from my side. Okay. So it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better because of the potential contagion. So avoid being too optimistic prematurely lah, because the stock market may be boom a while, and that's because government pumping a lot of money, but that may not factor in all the spillover effect. The oil sector will kind of cause a lot of jobs to be lost. Airline sector, even Boeing and Airbus are not spared. Many sectors will suffer permanent structural damage. They will not look anything like they are before. They will shrink, the capacity will be limited. Even long household names will be lost, and there will be massive reconsolidation. So if you are serving this sector or you're in this sector, then you need to watch out, right? And the experience from China is that there will be a demand shock first, okay? When the Chinese, there'll be a supply shock first. They think that they shut down, after that they come back, their demand will be there, right? But now because consumers are also affected, so that eventually there's a demand shock as well. So these are kind of hand in hand. So don't expect your customers to flock back at the same numbers. Maybe there's an initial bump, bubble tea craze. I want to watch movie, but beyond that, things will change. Especially less discretion, the less essential things, the spending they may be more conservative. So people who go to a high-end restaurant, they may go to a casual dining. Casual dining maybe go to food court go to hawker. And then the last part is that this shift, I'm sure we are all forced to be digital, right? Because there's no other way to deliver whatever service, right? This acceleration towards digital, and if you understand what digital transformation means, it means that there's also a transformation of the business model and even the pricing. So what happened is that generally, using digital will kind of deflate the market. Something that in the newspaper, you place the ad $1, okay, you go to Google or Facebook, you're only spending 20 cents for the same result. So every sector that went through digital transformation, you will go through this so-called demonetization. So the industry will actually kind of shrink, right? Movie industry has gone through that, advertising industry, media industry, newspaper, even e-commerce, deflate the brick and mortar. So this, after this whole shattered and battered business and consumers, they'll demand ever lower and lower price. And the only way this can be done is through digital. Okay, so I want to share with you this broader picture of 3 acceleration that's going on. Okay, before this COVID, this is poised to accelerate and take off very quickly on an exponential curve in 2020s. Okay, what happened is that COVID-19 actually accelerates all these 3. Okay, so the 4th industrial revolution, that's my pet topic, the 4.0 future, the 4.0 technologies. So this will be kind of really now mass adoption, mass development, mass market. Okay, 5G, especially when 5G is out, AI gets more mature, robotics become cheaper. So this will become so mainstream, right? So digital disruption, maybe your industry will hit 5 years from now. Now it's like maybe 1 to 2 years from now. So this geopolitical disorder, that's one of my favorite topics. I can spend hours talking about it. So this disorder is, there's nowhere in the last 30, 40, 50 years that this is at the so fragmented stage. So we will see the US-China variant of their own version of this Cold War. West to East power shift will continue. Liberal democracies mostly in the West, are facing a crisis. European Union is further breaking up, especially when this whole pandemic, at the central level, nothing much is being done. And each country is just like guarding themselves. And this whole world order is actually ailing. And the fear is, and it's inevitable, this will lead to more fractures and nationalistic domestic politics. Okay, and don't think that Singapore is immune to this. Singapore is left, right, center of this because we are the most globalized country in the world. And when countries have this kind of geopolitical tension, globalization will be hit. Okay, maybe I can just quickly mention about this globalization. Okay, if you are in goods, unfortunately now is the time whereby more regional manufacturing supply chain will happen. I won't say big time, I would say it's a shift or kind of reversal. But if you are in services, whether business services or consumer services, because now digital enables you to do it, to deliver this, just like what we're doing now, actually the trend is reversed. In services, it becomes hyper-globalization. It becomes a case whereby your reservoir, US is one reservoir, Euro is one reservoir, then different countries is small little ponds, right? So this is like water flooding over, and it becomes an ocean, right? So suddenly these fishes from this reservoir will swim over to your place, and you have to swim over to their place. So it becomes hyper-globalization for services. But for goods, it will take the reversal path. Okay, and this movement and what Brands for Good are doing is right spot on, right? It's this movement towards as a response to climate change, global warming, and access wealth divide. This conscious capitalism and consumerism, multi-stakeholder sustainable approach to every part of our life, investment, production. So this will start to accelerate as well. So I see that this will become the mainstream way of doing business in a few years' time. So these are already coming. Now it's like stepping the pedal on the adding pressure on the gas pedal. It will just accelerate even further. Okay, so you need two set of plans. Okay, so now it's a wartime. You're a wartime CEO now. Okay, set that into your mind. You're a wartime CEO. You fight during this period. You operate very differently. You need one strategy for this wartime, and then you need to prepare for the new peacetime. Okay, after this 2022 onwards will be so damn different after the dust settle. Okay, what's left behind is a very different operating consumer business and international environment. So you need another set of plans for that. So when the moment when this wartime is finished, you take that out. Let's run with this. Okay. So in future, of course, we actually focus the first 2 days on this wartime and then the next 2 days on this peacetime. So there's a clear divide. You don't mash everything up and get confused. Okay. So I want to, how much time have I spent just to do a time check? Just key into the comments. Okay, so 2020 is a very exciting time. Whether pandemic or other larger shifts that are happening, okay, I want to give you a mental update and then give you the strategies to deal with this. If you follow the 2 strategies I'm going to give you, you will be forever future ready. Okay, so this part, I'm just going to cover 3 things. Outlook. Why is this decade so different? Okay. Then I'll tell you why your mental model is obsolete, and then what are the new strategies that you need. Okay. So this is my favorite slide. And if there's nothing you take away from today, other than a few points here and there, you must was one chapter in humanity. Okay, that one started 1989 from the end of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall in November 6, 1989, and that kind of suddenly the world becomes kind of one single block. Okay, and largely US led, right? This period, globalization was non-stop. China entered WTO. For for big countries, massive urbanization, the first PC and all these, I'll say primitive version of technology, because the more advanced one is coming, and then the rapid rise of China. Okay, these four mega trends they're still there in the background, but the last 30 years they went from flat to take off. Okay, so it's an S curve. Now it's tapering off already. I mean, as a big economy, China economy will start to slow down, right, in percentage wise. Okay, so I want to be truthful to you, and a lot of what I do is sharing hard truth, not sweet talk. So the hard truth is that this 30 years of tranquility, progress, stability, relative certainty, this period will not return ever in our lifetime. Okay, I would say that enjoy what you can up to today. Moving forward, we will not, our kids especially will be a very, very different, very, very disruptive world. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what is the next fourth trend. None of these should surprise you. You read papers left, right, center, is already there. Okay, but these four trends are going to accelerate. Okay, so number one is the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, the last 30 years is information technology. Okay, now we're going to switch over to intelligent technology. Okay, this single word changes everything, because the word intelligent actually disrupts human mind. Information is consumed by human, right? It's not substitute for human, but intelligent technology actually is a potential substitute for human, right? And then this whole, just now I talked about the geopolitics. Okay, it's going to get very frightening. First bipolar, and then India by 2030, PPP terms, it's going to be number 2 largest economy. Okay, so the world will kind of go, I would say, go back to its natural state. Okay, this one superpower world is not a natural state. It will never happen ever in our history again. Okay, even a bipolar world is also unnatural. Okay, in ancient history, it's always a few powers depending on your population size. So we are going to go back to that. That means that a universe that has a few stars rotating around one another is going to get very, very complex. Instead of last time only America, and then every planet rotate around one gravitational pull, right? So it's going to get so complex for us. And the third one, I don't have to, it should be top of your mind anyway. The climate crisis is coming. In my mind, we only have 10 years to fix this. And the big part of this is who is the next US president. Because whether US is out of the picture or is in the picture actually makes a big difference on whether we are able to solve this. And the fourth one, it all happened in our family. It's the most predictable mega trend, aging population in developed countries that will change investment and consumption and production, workforce, and all these things. So I want to give you a stock take to make sure that you unlearn a bit of what, if your company is based on the last 4, now focus on the next 4. Okay, whatever strategy you use, whatever decision you make, you have to consider all these 4, because each one of them is big on its own. But now everything is going to interplay with one another. So the complexity is going to be crazy. Right? Just like geopolitics now makes with technology. You have the 5G war, you have the AI war, and all these things happening, right? So these are the 4 disruptions. I put it as disruption because none of us are prepared for this. Our business are not really prepared for this. Okay. So if you look at the shift that is happening, we are moving from this left-hand side, from a predictable environment to an extremely unpredictable environment. Okay. So you can see that we're moving from one world order to a chaotic world disorder. Okay. Are you able to operate and do well in this kind of operating context? Okay, so this chart actually shows the probability left to right, high or low to high probability event, and then low to high impact event. So what happens is that we don't care about the one in the bottom, because this is low impact, happens all the time, doesn't affect our life much. What we care about is high impact and high probability. So mega trends and black swans. Okay, And what happened is that just now I shared with you this 4 mega trend, right? This will create a lot of stress and even system failure, and preferably a positive transformation, okay, in all aspects of our life today, right? And then because of all these tectonic plates shifting at the same time, that is why funny things happen. Okay, Donald Trump doesn't happen by chance. It happens because of this kind of mega trends, and basically the capitalism system doesn't work and things like that, right? Commonwealth divide, and this will result in this proliferation more and more serious. Okay, so we need a way to manage these. Okay, so that's where I come to the mental model. Okay, the mental model in the past, we operate under a relative predictable environment. Okay, this is a bit like, okay, you just have one straight road only, right? Because you can predict that the road is very straight, you just rev and run at 200, 300 kilometers per hour. So this is considered the kind of performance paradigm. Okay, so growth is important. You focus on efficiency, right? To extract more and more, go faster and faster. A country also use these. You can look at America, that's what they're focused on, right? And because of this crisis, they know something is wrong. They're going to reverse this, right? Go for cheap, go for mass volume, right? Okay, so if you take this model and you go at 200 kilometers per hour, suddenly your road become whiny and turny. You're going to flip off the road and you're going to even fly off a cliff, you know. So without a parachute, okay, or without a flying car, right? So this exact model that works in the last 30 years, you're going to bring it forward to the next 30 years. Good luck, okay? If you can survive COVID, you may not survive other crises, okay? So this is a doom scenario if we continue to use the same strategy. Okay, a new world needs new strategy. Okay, so what is the new paradigm that we need? Okay, a new mental model. Okay, first is that we still need a performance culture. Okay, not to throw it away. It's still important, but it's now not everything. Okay, what you need is one layer over. Just like our brains, right? As humans evolve, we develop higher and higher order thinking. Same what your organization, because of stress, changing environment, over time your company also need to develop higher and higher order strategies and basically your cognitive approach. So what happened is that what we need is this what I call a thrive mindset. A thrive mindset has two parts. First, you want to thrive. Number one thing is not to die, is to survive first. So whatever you are doing, you need to make sure you survive first. Okay, and then after that you thrive. So it's both a defensive and a aggressive strategy. Okay, so that, for example, you want to thrive. Just use military kind of example. You want to make sure you guard your home territory before you go attack outside, right? Rather than bet the house and attack outside and then leave no one to guard the home territory, right? Then enemy can flank you easily. Okay, we want to make sure we do very well, but make sure that we guard our home ground. Okay, so this strategy would have two different. So this thrive concept has two strategies. Okay, so I'm going to run through with you within the 10 minutes these two strategy. Okay, so the first strategy, okay, I must qualify these are big words. Why are these big words? Because the simple basic things is all done already. Moving forward, okay, the same old strategies will kind of do. So we need to develop and learn and quickly internalize higher level concepts. Okay, so these two terms are not invented by me, thankfully. Okay, there are gurus that kind of promote these kind of models, like Harvard Business School. Okay, so I'll run through with you quite quickly. Okay, because this is not a full workshop, so I won't like give you every little detail and example. I'll kind of breeze you through just to give you that idea, so that today you walk out of this workshop, at least that kind of sticks with you. Okay, so how do we deal with these two? Black Swan, some of these are global Black Swan event. COVID is a global corporate Black Swan event, okay? And these mega trends, these 4 mega trends will lead to industry disruption, okay? industry disruption means especially using digital, but sometimes it's non-digital, okay, that puts a lot of companies out of business, right? Because of transformation and using new technology. So to make sure that you survive, you need to transform it around to say, how do I thrive with chaos? And how do I take every risk as an opportunity to grow, okay? And the second strategy is called ambidexterity. Okay, ambidexterity means the ability to use both hands, but in your business, it means you are exploiting today's business and inventing tomorrow. Okay, I'll briefly touch on these two. So what happened is, again, moving to 2020, right? We're just very early stage. Okay, based on companies' existing performance culture, okay, even if they survive this particular black swan, they will not survive subsequent one. There's so many to come. Okay, we need a new way to deal with this, right? So the concept anti-fragility, or it's made famous by this Nassim Taleb. Okay, and he wrote this very famous book called Anti-Fragile. Okay, and actually he's explaining this concept. Okay, first, fragile is something that breaks quite easily under stress. So when you, for example, drop a glass, it breaks, right? Resilient is something that can absorb the stress, the pressure, or the disorder, but it doesn't change. So it's like someone punch you, okay lah, I can absorb it, pain a while, but after that, there's no permanent damage. Okay, so you always hear resilient, right? I'm sure this is like, especially this time, everyone must be resilient. But the key is to one level up. Okay, so imagine fragile is -1, resilient is 0. Resilient is like neutral. Anti-fragility is +1. So with every crisis, you actually become stronger. Okay, later I'll run through some quick examples. But that's why Singapore and Glenn also have this emerge stronger, right? Because how do we become relative to our other competitors or other countries? We actually rise up every time there's a crisis. Okay, I'd like to use this example. Actually, if you look through why these East Asian countries that got through SARS now is a bit, having it more contained compared to the countries that didn't, is because, and I always say that actually this SARS actually is a godsend, because it allows us to prepare for COVID. Because if we don't have COVID, then it's the same way, we'll be more complacent, we don't understand it, we don't have the systems in place, and we'll be suffering big time, right? So actually, if you think through, actually SARS is a very good training and conditioning for us. So again, if you think from the country perspective, what we were very fragile with 25 years ago? It was reliant on Malaysian water, right? Once they cut off, we are kind of half dead, right? So we turn that into our advantage. Okay, so we I mean, now have 4 taps, and then obviously using a lot of advanced desalination, we turn it to our advantage. Okay, so similarly, you think 2030, okay, the food situation will be very different. There will be crop failure because of climate change and bigger population, more mouths to feed. Food becomes even more, in terms of supply chain risk, even higher, right? And countries, they don't have enough food, they will kind of block the export, right? So that's why Singapore has a 2030, 30% of nutritional needs come from internal production, because, and then then we can export that technology as well. So that's why it's always thinking of, after every crisis, when other countries suffer, actually we rise up to higher heights, and then we can attract more MNC investment, and more and more, because we are anti-fragile. So a lot of what our government is trying to do is to show that we are rising after every crisis. So invest here, because long term we are a good place to be. Okay, so this is not my concept. Harvard is quite big on this. Make your organization anti-fragile. Okay, this is a big concept, so you have to find ways to internalize it. And later on, I'll share with you my quick example. So this is a whole continuum. Okay, fragile, robust. Sometimes you come across agile as well. means you react to change very fast. Anti-fragile is actually not just adapt, but actually you're ready for it. In fact, maybe you're even preparing for it because you want to benefit from it. So you actually, it's good. You can handle it, your competitors cannot. So your competitors will kind of dwindle, then customer all come to you if you're anti-fragile. So this is the curve that shows when there's too much stress, resilient will also turn eventually. But this agile company organization, actually the more stress it is, they become stronger. Okay, this you can apply to many levels of life. For me, I apply this on my kids. Okay, so that I know that when they enter the workforce in 2030, it's hyper disruptive. So the more different kind of stress tests and different kind of behavior and unusual kind of events, I let them be exposed to it so that they actually adapt it and become better. Okay, so maybe I just mentioned about quickly this example of Apple and Samsung. Okay, who is actually more anti-fragile? In this time, I believe Samsung is doing better. Because why? Because first, it has deliberately diversified out of China-US trade war, or Apple has not really been able to do so, right? And this thing will really make it worse, right? And thankfully, Vietnam is also contained very well. And secondly, is buying phones anymore or digital gadgets because lower consumption power, willingness to pay. Okay, actually during this period, Samsung, because it's quite diversified, right? It does the displays, does the semiconductor, memory chip, and so on. Actually, it's memory chips. All these business, all things, companies need more, people needing more laptops and all this. So during this crisis, actually, is sometimes diversification is a good thing. Customer base, right? So last time it's not so important. Now it's absolutely important. Okay, so this is a mindset. Always think of opportunities to leverage, and ride on the crisis to go higher. For example, in this crisis, I developed a new product for companies that I'll charge them on a weekly basis on the COVID-19 briefing. Why? Because a lot of companies are relying on high-level, very insightful kind of wisdom to help to guide them through this crisis, right? So it makes a difference in terms of their decision making. So I launched a new product and it's a weekly briefing. So the longer this thing drags out, or the more serious it becomes, the more I'm benefiting. But I'm benefiting by helping companies navigate. It's not profiteering, right? So I'm actually helping the situation and also become stronger after this as well, right? Okay. So I will just show you a few slides, then I'm kind of done. Okay. Just now I show you the 4 mega trends. Actually, a lot of companies are at this point. It's called strategic inflection point. Okay. It's at the point whereby there's a 10x change in their competitive landscape or their environment. For example, you go from a silent film to a movie sound film. Actually, it's a 10x change. You move from conventional camera to digital camera is a 10x change. Walmart in the last time when it came out is a 10x change. Actually changed the whole retail industry. It wiped out a lot of players. The original disruptor, and then Amazon again becomes the disruptor, right? So actually a lot of companies are here, especially with 4.0 technology. They just don't realize it yet. Okay, so this is 2020 is bound to happen. Just a matter of time. Okay, so this is called strategic inflection point. It's made famous by Andrew Grove when he's teaching at Intel, and he wrote this book, Only the Paranoid Survive. And it's a point whereby, because of 10x change, if the company remains as status quo, they will die definitely. Okay, but if they are able to reinvent themselves, find a new value proposition, or in this case, for them, it's memory chips. They have been undercut by the Japanese players, and they managed to find and use this semiconductor, right? This microprocessor. They invent a whole category, and then now is maybe 100 times more valuable than before. So this is actually a lot of companies are at this point today. Okay, here I'm going to share another concept. This is called ambidextrous. So just now I mentioned ambidextrous, right? It means you're able to do well in today's business, continuous improvement, business process outsourcing, productivity, and so on. That's today's business. Okay, that's your bread and butter. You have to do one. Okay. On the other hand, you need to invent the future. You need to explore the new. Okay. I give you this quick example of Kodak, right? We all know the Kodak story, so I don't have to go in depth. But Kodak was unable to explore the new. Okay, what would Kodak have become? If you know Fujifilm, they look at their core things, and when this one photography is disrupted, they use their core technology to go into pharmaceutical, photography, healthcare, cosmetics, right? This Kodak wasn't able to do that because it's not actively doing that. Imagine what is their core? Their core is actually sharing and recording memories. Okay, if that's their core, who is actually doing that very well? Our best friend Facebook, right? We are doing it all the time. So why can't Kodak reinvent themselves in time and create now $300-400 billion business? There's no excuse. There's excuse in those days because this kind of disruption is not frequent. Okay, but today there's no more excuse. Okay, you have to find your Facebook out of your Kodak. Okay, so I'm going to combine everything together into this final slide. And this curve, just now exploit the now is, for example, your telco business, continue to do them well in your telco business. Okay, but in the meantime, you have to explore a new curve because also telco become more competitive, right? So for example, a telco inventing Grab, instead of some founders starting from scratch, right? Why can't the telco, for example, with billions of dollars, invent a Grab that is in future can be 5 or 10 times more valuable than a telco? Okay, and I want to bring you in with this COVID. This maybe I'll say we can hypothetically, let's say we are kind of here before this turn. Today COVID has accelerated this. Remember I said digital disruption, fourth industrial revolution, all accelerated, right? So it pushed us even further and nearer to this cliff. Okay, that makes it all more important. We need to, when we are preparing for this crisis, we must be able to reinvent and explore the future. Okay, so I know I give you quite a bit of a lot to chew. I just want you to take away these two concepts, and if you can internalize this, so that you will be future ready in 2020s. Okay, that's my kind of last slide. I'll hand over back to Glenn.
Oh, back. Thanks, Charlie. Oh, wonderful. So I've also noticed that there are one or two questions that were raised in the chat group. As I share now a little bit more, if you've got questions, I suggest that it's still while fresh in your mind to post it onto the chat group first. Trina will then do a Q&A after Alan. So we will do a combined Q&A between both Alan and Charlie, so that we have a quick one, because we are quite short of time. I promised everyone to finish by 3:30, and then of course open networking after that. So once again, for those of you who came in a bit later, we are actually going to do open networking with the breakout rooms later. And those of you who can stay on a bit longer, we will try and randomly put everybody 20-25 people in, or 20 people to a room, so that we can sort of meet new people. I mean, there is a later need for all of us to humanize our our time here, right? And then to steal a tagline from Maybank. So to humanize our relationship. So stay on for the networking, right? So without further ado, I will now going to pass over to Alan, a good friend and someone that I have been working very closely with in the last 2 years already with Brands for Good. Alan has been a civil servant for 20 years. So to quote many people, neither civil nor servant, right? But okay, anyway, so that's Alan. But Alan previously for 20 years, he was with Trade Development Board. He was with the I can't remember what's the name of the cooperative. Is it cooperative? Alan, you there?
Yeah, cooperative.
No, is it not cooperative? The Singapore, you were assigned to set up. Okay,
Singapore Cooperation Enterprise.
Cooperation Enterprise. Okay, so Singapore Cooperation Enterprise, and then there was I think his last stop was with IPOS, Intellectual Property Office of Singapore, where he was the international director and he was in charge of actually the government-to-government relationships between the different IP offices around the world. So anyway, that's it. Alan Ng, right? So
Yeah, thank you. Let me share a slide. I think thanks Glenn for your introduction, and thanks also Charlie for the great sharing. I want to sort of carry forward. I think I take the opportunity, if you don't mind, that I can share briefly about Brands for Good. And I think taking on from where Charlie shared, I think the world going forward, we all know, for those of you who refuse to change your mind, I think it's going to be a tough business environment. But for those of you who are willing to, I think many new winners are going to come out. Just like after the 08 crisis, the last financial crisis, right? We saw the rise of Bitcoin, we saw the rise of Alibaba, we saw the rise of many people who learn to use new tools, all right, and then they find a new opportunity and then they emerge stronger. So, and I think this is where we hope by coming together, sharing our insights, we can identify some things that we can leverage on, right? And I think for Charlie, you got to really appreciate him because this guy reads a lot. So a lot of information that he shared now is really very summarized, right? So he also run a course to really expound and be able to personalize, right? Because all of us operate in a very different environment, different businesses. And I think now the very important skills is not to extrapolate, because what we know in the past are not useful anymore. It may not be relevant. To be able to do business planning with future information, right? Really expecting what is to come, right? And then you got to use a lot of foresight, right, to anticipate. So in Brands for Good, one angle we try to help our companies or companies within our community is to, of course, refocus back on purpose, right? So that's our 100-word self-introduction, right? We want to champion the cause to inspire every business to become a purposeful brand, right? So we tie up with ASEAN CSR Network, and we want to raise our community to ASEAN level community. So I'm quite glad that I think in our group here, we do have some participants from Cambodia, from Indonesia, from Philippines, all right? And I think I saw Shane, you're here too, from Canada. So, so once a year, right, we run our gala dinner, our awards, right, to bring all our network partners, our knowledge partners together to interact, to network, right? So we are constantly trying to encourage, through all this networking and intermingling, it can give rise to new business opportunity or help, add value to what you're doing. And I think, having said that, the rise of purposefulness is not just what we say, right? I think if you look at many articles, so this one article written by Deloitte, it talks about the rise of social enterprise and how the millennials are becoming more aware, and they're more inclined towards businesses who has found a way to work with the society in a positive sense, of course, right? And Forbes magazine also wrote an article called "The Rise of Social Enterprise," right? A new paradigm for business, right? And in Harvard Business Review, right, this very nice article talk about putting purpose at the core of your strategy, because I think many businesses understand the need to have a purpose, but sometimes, over time, right, the purpose becomes a cliche, right? It becomes a nice statement hang on the wall for people to see, right? But the culture of the business lose the passion, all right, or lose the commitment to that purpose. And I think it's very important to refocus on purpose again. So in Brands for Good, we do three things, right? We want to help company refocus, right, to make purpose the core of their brand proposition or their brand essence, right? Then we also work with ASEAN. ARIBA stands for ASEAN Responsible and Inclusive Business Alliance, right? And then we do our annual event. So that's a brief introduction about Brands for Good. We have got some introduction video. If you want, can do a screenshot, and hope you all can go and take a look at our videos. Right. We also have a LinkedIn page that we set up recently, right? And then we also have 2 coffee table booklet on these 2 events that we did in 2018, 2019. If you'd like to have a copy, just reach out to us. We're happy to send you a copy. So what we do, we we are open for nomination. Companies who are prepared to put yourself through our a panel of judges who are from various institutions to consider your business model and consider the impact you've made, and so we talk about the double bottom line. Right? So that's where we give away awards during the annual event. Okay, so that is a brief introduction about Brands for Good, right? So now I come to this part about tapping on government support, and I think this, of course, primarily are meant for Singapore-based company, with 30% local equity. But at the same time, if you are a foreign company, you can also get some Singapore government grant, just that your grant component is lower, usually 50%, whereas a Singapore-based company with at least 30% local equity, they can get up to 70%. But only for this year, because of COVID, you can get up to 80 or 90%. Okay, so grants you can focus in 3 areas: for the enterprise, for the individual, or for the employers. All right, but well, actually, grant I tell you is a very big topic. All right, you can also go for 1-2 hours just to talk about it. So since we're going to do this on a regular basis, so I decided to cut all my grant into small snippets. So last session I talked about brand consulting grant. Right. So today I'm going to talk about training grant because that is relevant to what Charlie is doing. All right. So if you attend his course, Singapore, actually this is now the biggest pot of money the government has set aside. All right, this is the biggest pot. So almost a lot of training you can go to, they are all heavily subsidized. Okay, so you can either go for training as an individual. All right, so likewise, I think Charlie's course has already been pre-qualified by SkillsFuture. So you can use your SkillsFuture credit. All right, so if you are a Singaporean or a Singapore PR, 21 years and above, then you have a SkillsFuture credit. Okay. So you can go to the website, all right, all the information is there, but here's a summary, all right? So there are sort of 3 parts, all right? The old SkillsFuture credit, all right, then there's going to be a new top up, and then if you're 40 years and above, okay? So that's all targeted at individual, all right? Then you can go and, you attend course, you attend training, then you can use this SkillsFuture credit, okay? Then if you are an enterprise, all right, for businesses, local SME, but if you are a non-local SME, you can also apply, just that your grant, the amount is different, okay? So anyway, there's a link there. You can also go in. So these are all information available on the website, okay? So if you're an enterprise, now this is something new. I call the SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit, right? Where $10,000 is set aside, right? Up to 90% out of pocket to support, all right? So there are 2 parts to look at, right? One is called the Workforce Transformation Program. Right, and another one is called the Enterprise Transformation Program. Right, so the Enterprise Transformation Program is the usual EDG and all that. But now there's also another component where government set aside this sum of 10,000 if you use it for workforce transformation. Right, so you can see I list down all. Actually, this one I took from one of the SME Center presentation. So nowadays there are so many people talking about it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's inside there, all right? Then the agencies that leads it, right? Then if you look at it, all right, so that explains, all right? So if you do an enterprise transformation, you can also use part of the money to do workforce transformation, right? You can combine the 2 together, okay? So, okay, maybe if you all have questions, we can address that, right? But so the key to take note now is that, right? So if you use money for enterprise, your own enterprise development, you do consulting, whatever, right? Then you can also tap on this what is it called? This SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit, right? To do training, to do workforce transformation, right? All right, and then usually in these areas, the subsidy can go up to 90%. Okay. And I think for those of you who have been tapping on it, and this term is not new, it's called absentee payroll. So meaning to say that when you send your staff to go for training, government pay you as an employer for the time they spend on training. Okay, so you do not incur the time cost of your staff going for training. So if you are a non-SME, up to 80% and at $4.50 per trainee per hour. And if you are SME, then there's $7.50 per trainee per hour. And any of this, I think, has gone up to $10. And then, enhanced, the enhanced rate now is $10. Okay. So that's my very quick introduction. These are people, if you all have any questions, feel free to write in or contact us. Okay, Glenn, over to you. Maybe we can take some questions.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Alan. And then actually over to Trina. Trina, you're supposed to be handling the Q&A, right?
Oh, yeah.
Trina, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. But for the moment, we have a few questions that are more general. They want to know like how often are these sessions that we have? So can we maybe post?
I'll cover that. So just to sort of share, we are going to do this every week, right? So as our own anti-fragile mode that Charlie is sharing, right? And something that we also glimpse in that is the fact that we need to start balancing the way. And in fact, while we're talking about anti-fragility, we are doing this because we want to grow stronger, right? And we believe that if this COVID thing lasts longer, and really have no choice, and everybody's working from home more, we have a chance to grow stronger because of this, right? And because of this opportunity here, and because of our outreach and the ways that we're doing it. So hence, this anti-fragility mindset. So every week, to answer that question specifically, every week, the dates may change slightly, but next week one with Maybank is actually also the same time at 2 to 3:30, right?
Right. And also now we are also opening the floor for questions to Charlie and also to Glenn on grants. So anyone would like to raise your hands, or you can post the questions into the message chat. Yes, there were a few questions. I mean, there were some private messaging on how to find out about upcoming talks. So I think Ellen had covered that just now. We have in LinkedIn and WhatsApp. So kindly please add yourself to those group chats. And then I think how often are we doing this? We have recovered. And why are we doing this? Glenn also has covered that.
I see one.
So, yeah.
George is asking to explore and exploit the new will require new mind thing and creativity. Somehow large corporations are mostly blinded or have tunnel vision. Champion is for individual. The challenge is for individual to raise and show your ability to adapt and champion to changes, especially for those working in large corporates. Easy to say, hard to do. Any views from the host? I think, Charlie, that's for you.
So it's absolutely true. It's hard to do. I think anything moving forward is hard to do. I would say that actually many companies have the wrong person at the top, because the last 30 years, the people who bring you to where the company is actually using one playbook and keep expanding on that playbook. It's the same playbook, right? But actually today you need another kind of leader. Okay, in the past, what you need is what I call executive leader. Means that there's a proven strategy. You just expand, do more, do M&A and all these things. But moving forward, this kind of leader will not be able to reinvent the company. You need an entrepreneurial leader. Okay, so what happened is, I just give you one example. Bill Gates was the entrepreneurial leader. He founded the company, right? And then he passed over to his COO, Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer basically is a sales guy. He's not an inventive guy. So he sell more of what Microsoft already have, Office, Windows and all these. But what did he miss out? He missed out on the internet. He missed out on social media. He missed out on mobile revolution. He missed out search engine. All these things he missed out because when he hand over Microsoft, is all at the bottom, right? Because he's not entrepreneurial leader. You look at what Satya Nadella is. He's actually that kind of entrepreneurial, put growth mindset into the organization, and today is back to the old heights. It's the exact same thing that's happening to Apple. And Apple was Steve Jobs passed over to his COO, the president, who are good at operation. And again, he's using the same playbook, different form factors or iPhone, different sizes, cheaper version, a bit of iPad. Today he's still living off the iPhone, Steve Jobs legacy. He didn't really invent much. If he invented much, he'll reinvent finance already. He'll reinvent many industries already, right? Today, you need the archetype of Jeff Bezos, this obviously Elon Musk, and in your company, you don't have to be those, right? You don't have to be Elon Musk of the world. You just need to be Elon Musk of the niche that they are in, the industry you are in, you outcompete your competitors already. But what you need is someone able to reinvent a company, able to transform. And these are not easy.
Okay. There's, I think, another question for Charlie here from Mr. Jeremy Pei. He said, what do you think is the chances for Trump to get re-elected?
Okay. Personally, and I've been wrong, and like most people I've been wrong, right? That he will get elected in the first place. Okay. I think that most people, he's a bit of shoe in before this pandemic, right? So today is not clear yet, but what you see is that American politics is very polarized. 45% support, whichever party. Okay, so there's very little space for these swing voters. Okay, so the eventual case will be not. It's not about the swing voters anymore because they are there's a small percentage. It's so polarized, right? The difference is that which party and which candidate can galvanize more people to come and vote. That's the main difference. Okay, basically, Donald Trump called himself the wartime president. Okay, and in the past presidents that is in wartime or in crisis time, whereby you're flying American flag, right? Their popularity goes up 20%. Donald Trump, 2%. Right? It shows that no matter what he does, correct or wrong, it's very hard to change. The only thing that will change the game is he upset the Democrats so much that really it forced them to say, a high percentage of them really want to turn up to throw him down. Right? So that's the kind of crazy press conference everything is doing. But the point is, today is too early to tell. In my view, after the whole body count is out, a lot of Republicans will switch over. My belief is it's not electable.
Okay. Then we have one from I'm going through the list from the chat. There's one from is it Wong? Yue Xin Wong. Start from a clean sheet of paper. This is quite a daunting task. I'm sure that's addressed to Charlie. You want to?
Yes.
Yeah. At 3:35, yeah. So I think she's making a comment.
It's all political.
Some kind of economic.
Very sensitive,
Yeah.
Political is really more coffee talk than kind of a big group talk. But finding the new leader is the case now because can we extrapolate that thinking?
Okay, never mind. While Charlie reads that question, maybe Alan can answer. This is from a startup, and there's a question from Andre Rizal. He likes to know about how you can help on that grant. Maybe you want to share or
Sure. Yeah. In fact, I was just typing a private reply to him. Okay, maybe since everyone is here, let me explain. You see, grant criteria, right? First, there is a SME criteria. SME criteria means that you must be no more than 100 million in your revenue and no more than 200 workers. That's the easy criteria because most SME, we are not there, right? But of course, there are some big companies, when they pass that threshold, then they no longer can tap on the what we call the SME grant. Then the second part is called the local equity criteria. The company must have at least 30% local equity, meaning to say Singaporean or a local PR. Of course, it's sometimes the discretion of the grant officer to see whether the 30% local equity, is it real or not, right? Because sometimes a foreign company may come and tell the nominee director, okay, I give you 30%, and then he doesn't hold a very important role, all right? So if the grant officer assess that, hey, this is not a real case, right, they may require more, all right? Or they may say, this 30%, because the whole idea here is to make sure that it must at least be the headquarter function held in Singapore, all right? Because in the sense that the headquarter function is not in Singapore, they still have a right to reject your application, all right? It's not so there's always the subjective element in the grant officer assessing. So what I tell you is really more the standard approach, right? But it doesn't mean that, because I fulfill the standard approach means I must get a grant, okay? So that's number one, right? The SME criteria, the local equity criteria. Then third, whenever you apply for grant, consulting grant, overseas expansion grant, whatever that is, right? There is always a requirement for you to submit your 3-year financial statement, right? And because you have to submit 3-year financial statement means that if you're a startup, that's a very tough criteria, all right? Unless, so that again, is it hard and fast? It may not be, because there are companies who have been around for, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, they still get grant, right? Because what is the government looking for? They're looking for fast growth company, right? Because in this world of competition, we also want to support our fast growth company. So if you can show that you are unique in that sense, yes, the ESG may be willing to close one eye, or regard you as an exceptional case. But if you are a startup, your revenue is weak, you have no assets, you have nothing, I tell you, it's very hard to get money, right? Because this kind of criteria, right, you actually go under SG founder. You are, because in the whole startup ecosystem, there are also a lot of VCs money, all right, a lot of venture funds, right? So or seed fund, right? So you will tend to be directed to those areas. And then you may say, oh, I need help in HR, I need help in accounting. Then there are a lot of self-help tools as well, all right, on SG business portal. So you may be directed to go and use those tools, because you're deemed as you're not of that size yet where your problems are complicated. And grant money is not given to you to go and do what you want. It's not given to you to subsidize your cost. Grant money is given to you to get an expert to help you build your competency. You see, so if you are just a startup, then your competency are not complicated. Then it's very hard to convince ESG that you have a very complicated problem that you cannot solve. You know what I mean? So my short answer to you is that if you're a startup, then you have to. It's a bit more difficult. I feel to go and back up the tree you're trying to get some of this consulting grant. Then you might yourself go and look at some of the the incubators, co-work space, and see maybe you can get some help there.
Okay, then I think this is for Charlie. It should be easy one for him. What do you think are the 5 industries that will thrive in this world? Okay. And 1 or 2 you see emerging. This is by Jonas Ang.
Okay. Hang on. I'm just going through the list of questions. Can I do a quick fire and then kind of answer it in short answers? Because I can tend to take hours to answer one question. So start with a clean sheet of paper. This is a daunting task. You can use by your own strategy and then see whether it works or not. So my point is that if you think transformation is hard, then try extinction. It's even harder. So there's no easy way out anymore. But anyway, my point is that the world is so different. You cannot bring what's before and after already. You cannot project and bring it forward anymore, especially the world before and after COVID. So you need to be able to reset. Things that are still work, you bring it forward. When you're starting your clean sheet, you're not starting with nothing. You have thought through before, but you're just trying to say what works and what doesn't work. What do we have to revisit? How do we reposition ourselves? How will the landscape be different? So you can say it's a clean sheet, or you are revising your kind of old strategy for the new world. Okay, so let me just quickly run through. And plan.
Ali,
okay, so yeah. What is that?
3 minutes.
Okay, so now the question is about, I think, Singapore, is it? Okay, I'll just say at this point in time, all countries need transformative leader. Can take the country, turn it around. There's no other choice. Okay, there's a big challenge facing every country. If you're China, you need someone not doing the same thing. The last 2 leaders is more doing the Deng Xiaoping thing. Now China needs someone who can come out with a different plan, different strategy, and bring everyone along. In Singapore, it's the same. The 4GL has to be transformational. Any more? So
Charlie,
someone asked about
maybe
industry.
We just asked everyone. We have already overran by 15 minutes. So maybe we get Charlie to answer one more question. And then I know that there's a lot of you who have questions. Maybe you can pose it in the WhatsApp chat, and then we can have Charlie answer them later. How about that?
Okay, I just end with this comment because there are questions about the industry, right? So whatever you do, you just think of this. You need these 3 circles to intersect. Okay, first there are more people in the world, and each one of them want to live a better quality of life. So this consumer welfare is important. And then secondly is that you need to understand when we try to serve our consumer market, more consumers, more people, higher quality, what happens is that it leads climate and our environment to decline. Okay, so it's opposite direction, right? So what happens is that you need to put in a circle to say that how do I put in technology, okay, so that I can serve more consumers, give them better, uplift their quality of life. At the same time, this curve no longer, the environmental impact doesn't go down. It actually goes up or is flat. Okay, but the only way you can do it is technology. There's no other way. So for example, food, then you're using lab-grown meat, right? Because it's highly pollutive in terms of eating meat, right? And then energy, we want it to be abundant. In future, I think energy will be free. It will be so abundant, just like your Wi-Fi, right? You just turn on and leave it on because it will be so affordable with renewable energy. So generally, it's the whole climate movement. Okay, so I think with that, I can kind of end it here.
Correct. So I think with that also, you have kind of answered Beyond's question. So Ellen, we go back to you.
No, back to me.
Sorry, Glenn. Sorry, Glenn. Glenn.
Okay, guys. So I will just going to quickly go and share my slides now for our Emerge Stronger slides QR code. So as I mentioned, thank you guys for all coming down today. We have really had the privilege of hosting you, and then we really enjoyed our time, and I hope you as well, and found that this session was useful. Charlie has been a wonderful mentor in terms of how ourselves have changed, and we also encourage everyone to go on your own journey in your own different ways. Do come to the WhatsApp chat if you want to find out a little bit more about some of the things that we are doing, and stay updated with us. So that's where we are. You can do a QR code scan. The link, I think, Trina, can you help me post it again onto the WhatsApp chat?
Okay.
We are going to try and keep our timing as promised, and we already actually 20 minutes overrun already. So we so as we put up the chat, this slides, Charlie's slides, Ellen's slides will also be shared onto the WhatsApp chat as well, so that you can get the information that you need. If you want to find out more information on what Charlie does as well, it's also available on the URL that is within this file at the bottom there. We have a quick link from charlieang.com/COAsia. That's my company, sort of just to quickly bring you to his program, so you can find out a little bit more about it. And that's it, right? So thank you all guys for coming. Don't forget, we're having our open